he's Hitler. And then they say, he's a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. I'm the opposite of a Nazi. I don't know.
There's an old principle in politics that if you have to say it, you've already lost. In less than a week until Election Day, Donald Trump took the stage at a rally in Atlanta and drew even more attention to a serious accusation by stating, I'm not a Nazi, I'm the opposite of a Nazi. It was strange of Trump to go there because at this critical point in a closing campaign, successful candidates usually try to unify their supporters and solidify their message. But Trump, who has never been known to show much discipline, decided to bring even more attention to his alleged fascism, authoritarian impulses, and admiration for tyrannical dictators. And keeping this issue going with, I am not a Nazi, is not going to help Trump with voters on the fence, and it might even embolden Trump's opponents. The irony is that Donald Trump's willingness to discuss and debate his alleged admiration for Adolf Hitler may not even be the most damaging issue his campaign is facing right now. At a rally in New York City at Madison Square Garden, self-described comedian Tony Hinchcliffe smeared Puerto Rico and delivered graphic insults of Latinos. Latinos comprise 12% of the electorate. And Donald Trump needs to gain ground with this group, especially in the swing states, to have a chance at winning.
All right, why are Republicans so nervous about those comments right there? Well, it has to do, as I said, with one of the most important voting blocks in one of the most important places, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, you remember the Commonwealth. Joe Biden won it by just 81,000 votes in 2020. Donald Trump won it by 44,000 votes in 2016. So you get the idea. It's really close in Pennsylvania. Okay, there are around 600,000 by some counts, 600,000 Latino voters, I'll put an L right there, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Around, by some counts, 300,000 Puerto Rican voters in the state of Pennsylvania, the third highest Puerto Rican population in the entire country. You will notice one thing about these two numbers here. They're both way bigger than the margin in Pennsylvania the last two elections. They are a key voting bloc in the Commonwealth.
The Trump campaign, as part of its damage control effort, has condemned the comedian's remarks and maintains the comments were never vetted in advance. But there are several reports that the Trump campaign did see the remarks in advance. Either way, the insults of Latino voters and the complications created for the Trump campaign amount to a serious campaign PR crisis. And the blunders, analysts say, reflect what the Republican Party has become in the MAGA era. A party that often engages in blunt, sometimes reckless rhetoric, even if it risks alienating some voters. With days left until the election votes are counted, major missteps like Tony Hinchcliffe's insults of Latinos and Trump's own defensiveness have prompted countless political analysts to question the campaign's strategic judgment. But there's also an argument that this is simply the new Republican Party identity, a party so embedded in the MAGA mentality that clumsiness, insults, and insensitivity are the norm. In this version of the GOP, traditional political caution and discipline has been replaced by an embrace of unfiltered, aggressive messaging that's often out of sync with broader voter constituencies. While the Republican far-right base may identify with the campaign's no-holds-barred style and coarse language, in an incredibly close election, such boneheaded errors could cost the GOP crucial support. In many ways, these missteps may be unavoidable because they reflect a new identity that prioritizes loyalty to the harsh MAGA brand above all else. This paradox highlights what many see as both Trumpism's greatest strength and its greatest weakness. Donald Trump broke the traditional political mold by coming across as more genuine and authentic, a quality that has a powerful appeal for millions of Americans. His supporters often describe him as someone who tells it like it is, rejecting the polished, often scripted approach of establishment politicians. This perceived authenticity has allowed Donald Trump to cultivate an intensely loyal base that appreciates his willingness to go against the grain no matter the consequences. However, the flip side is that this authenticity often leans into negativity, characterized by divisive rhetoric and controversial statements that don't always land well with a broader audience. In a close election, that raw, unfiltered approach can become a liability. For every voter who loves Donald Trump's directness, there may be others put off by the relentless intensity. As we approach Election Day, Trump's refusal to play it safe and his lack of sophistication could rally his core supporters while also alienating undecided voters who might be searching for a more unifying figure in a highly polarized climate. It's the double-edged sword of Trumpism. The very thing that makes it powerful also makes it potentially self-destructive.
You know, this honestly isn't really about a comedian. This is about the Trump campaign. Those comments and that individual saying those things on that stage inciting an entire arena of individuals who have been previously incited to commit attacks like the ones we saw on January 6th by people like Donald Trump. None of that was an accident. These campaign events are put together, they are vetted. That language was vetted by the Trump campaign, that person was approved by the Trump campaign because he is speaking on behalf of the Trump campaign.
And even if the Trump campaign denies it, the proverbial ship on this has already sailed. A Trump rally kicked off with insults of Latinos. And by the way, the rally also included insults of African Americans, women, Jewish people, Muslims, Samoans, Malaysians, New Yorkers, and people who do not think Kamala Harris is the Antichrist. In some ways, you could argue that Trump hosted a massive get out the vote rally for Kamala Harris. Trump and his crew made the case to tens of millions of voters to come together and support the Democratic Party's vision of a diverse, unified America over Trump's racist, misogynistic, anti-Semitic, dystopian potpourri of flaming hate, boiling ignorance, and festering resentment. It was a staggering and horrific way for Donald Trump to end a presidential campaign. But it was great for the Harris campaign and perhaps helpful for our democracy. Because here at the end, Donald Trump and the MAGA movement showed all of us who they really are. There are no mysteries about the poison and bile that are fueling the Trumpian drive towards fascism. There should be no doubt that Trump is serious about his intentions to round up tens of millions of undocumented migrants, put them in camps, and then deport them. There should be no doubt that Trump really believes that Democrats, journalists, and any critics of him are the enemy within and should be swept away by the National Guard and perhaps even the military. There should be no doubt that Trump will throw out the Constitution and embrace tyranny. Because while Donald Trump may reject the words, including tyranny, fascism, and authoritarianism, his actions and the actions of his highest profile supporters embrace it all. America's undecided voters have gotten an earful and an eyeful of Trumpism, and I'm convinced most of these voters are repulsed and will cast their ballots accordingly. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.